Welcome back. A very important topic and very good news about India. India has had a historic milestone in the global fight against the COVID-19, having administered 1 billion vaccines, imagine. To shed more light on the topic, we're very delighted and honored to be having with us here His Excellency, the Ambassador of India to Egypt, Mr. Ajlt Gupte, and he is with us live here in the studio. Good morning, Your Excellency.
Good morning.
That is one great achievement. It was done in 1 year?
Less than that.
Less than 1 year?
Yes.
How is that?
Well, when the pandemic broke out, it was obvious that the only way to stop the pandemic is through mass scale vaccination. Fortunately, India is one of the largest producers of vaccines in the world, and this Serum Institute in India had a tie-up with AstraZeneca to manufacture vaccines. So the process for this began a long time back in July, August of last year. And by December, AstraZeneca had the capacity and was able to manufacture 40 to 50 million doses per month. So we started our vaccination program on the 16th of January. And I must point out that the first priority that India gave was not the elite, not the political leaders, but it was the healthcare workers and also the sanitation workers. So they were the first ones to be given the vaccine, and later our Prime Minister took the first shot, and it was widely publicized on 1st of March. We initially focused on the older people above the age of 60, and from the 1st of July we started vaccinating people in the age group of 18 to 45. Now, gradually the momentum for delivery of the vaccines has grown. It took us about 85 days for the first 100 million, but in the last few months we have been vaccinating 7 to 8 million people per day, and we have been able to do 100 million vaccinations in about 12 to 15 days each for the last few weeks. Now, what are the reasons for this? I think firstly we had the leadership, the foresight to go in for manufacturing of vaccines. Secondly, our political leadership, our Prime Minister has given many addresses to the people of the country and constantly urged them to take vaccinations, to take precautions, and that has also had an impact. Finally, such a mass scale of vaccination, it requires individuals, it requires dedication of nurses, doctors and healthcare workers, because India is a vast country. We still have many people staying in villages and rural areas. So we have also encouraged our healthcare workers. For example, we had several ceremonies where from the helicopters we dropped flowers on them and the whole nation saw. We had aircraft from our Indian Air Force doing a fly past in honor of the doctors and nurses. So that helped to encourage.
Amazing work, amazing. But whoever who might be observing before we delve into the second question, whoever who might be listening to that amazing experience in less than 1 year and achieving all those, and even the priorities, vaccinating the health care workers and also the sanitation workers before the elite and the politicians and whoever who could be able to afford to be vaccinated. Did you do that by law, by enforcing the law, or by setting awareness amongst people, trying to address them in a way so that they could be cautious about their lives and convince them? Because some people in the low income brackets, they would be hesitant, they would be afraid, they don't know the repercussions of it's normal.
Yes, well, we had to set a policy for vaccination. We had to prioritize, like other countries. We had to give priority to certain age groups and certain types of people. So the first priority in India we gave to the doctors and nurses and the healthcare workers, because they were fighting the pandemic. Each of them came into contact with hundreds of COVID patients, and also the sanitation workers who have to dispose of various things. And then the next group was the older people above the age of 60, those with comorbidities. Initially, I must say that there was some amount of vaccine hesitancy, which is also fueled by rumors But because of the intense media publicity given by the government, and also we were able to present the facts in an open, transparent manner. So we were constantly disclosing how many people have been vaccinated, how many adverse events have taken place. Most of the adverse events were very minor. You know, somebody may have fainted, but then recovered. But we were open.
And it's normal.
Yes.
It's normal to have those side effects. But you have future targets for vaccination now in your position while you're going through that phase. You are now preparing to vaccinate even children. So you probably have a very good experience with types of vaccinations. A second step, which is a second level of experience. If you would like to share it with our audience.
Right. Well, we crossed 1 billion vaccine jabs on the 21st of October. With this, we have vaccinated about 75% of our adult population above the age of 18 with one jab, and about 35% are fully vaccinated. Now, we are not stopping or pausing. Our target is to do an additional 1 billion vaccine shots in the next 3 to 4 months. That is a target which has been announced by the government. In fact, the Prime Minister just 2 days ago took a meeting to see which areas are a little slow in implementing the second jab, and he has urged the administrators to ensure that the second jab is also delivered as fast as possible. Now we are looking, we have 2 or 3 vaccines which are in the final stage of clinical trials, and we hope that we can start vaccinating children from early next year.
Right. I am going to delve into the following question, but I can't help myself to compare between the situation of last year and this year. When I mean the whole world is looking over how India have achieved that successful experience and turned from that sad state to that very, very prosperous state is amazing.
Well, I think the world over it is recognized that vaccination on a mass scale is the only way to stop the pandemic. So since we have rolled out the vaccination and we are continuing to take precautions, even people who are vaccinated and fully vaccinated are required to wear masks in office. All the private sector and public sector organizations and government organizations still insist that everybody wears masks inside. And even in public, the police are enforcing wearing of masks. They are imposing a lot of fines. The fine is about $20 per person for not wearing a mask. So there is a great deal of compliance in India, which is, I think, better than even some of the developed countries. Now, because of these precautions, the number of cases we have is quite low, and a lot of the economic activity has started. So we are seeing a boom in exports. Our economic growth is very strong, and it is predicted that next year we will grow by 10% GDP.
What is the current number of cases, and how does it compare with the peak during the second wave?
Well, India was unfortunately the first country where the Delta wave spread, and it spread with great rapidity and great ferocity, and at its peak we were getting about 400,000 cases per day, 400,000 cases per day. Now the cases have declined very significantly, and we are getting about 15,000 cases per day.
Right. Also, India is one of the largest producers of vaccines in the world. Since India has now vaccinated, we could say, a majority of its population. Will it start, would that encourage you out of that very successful experience, and also securing your citizens and nationals? You would be able to stretch out hands and produce and be able to supply other countries with your vaccines and also with your experience?
We have been very committed right from the beginning to helping the world. When the pandemic broke out, we were one country which reached out. We initially sent a lot of the paracetamol, hydroxychloroquine and face masks and PPE kits all across the world. and our Indian Air Force was used to take these supplies even to the Caribbean countries, the small Pacific island countries, parts of Africa. Now, when the vaccines started being rolled out, we gave a lot of priority to supplying vaccines to countries around the world, especially the developing countries. And I should mention that we have given vaccines to 95 countries in the earlier part of this year. About 66 million doses were given. Now, when the second wave hit India, we had to concentrate on our own people. But now that we have the situation, we have again started, and just a few weeks ago we have supplied 1 million doses of vaccines each to Nepal, Bangladesh, and some other countries.
Amazing. After achieving a major milestone in this battle that was it was exposed to the media outlets everywhere, what kind of lessons did India learn from such a very sad experience? Of course, I can say that you have turned it into great success, but also there are lessons that you would like to deliver it to other countries, like such as tips you could give it probably to other countries who we keep hearing in the news that they're overcoming difficulties again.
I think the lessons that India has learned are applicable not only for India but countries around the world. Firstly, each country needs to be very well prepared for another pandemic. What happened when the pandemic broke out in India was we were not even manufacturing masks of high quality or PPE kits. We were importing everything, but in a short period of time we started producing a lot and then exporting. So I think you have to have some stocks, be prepared for a contingency. Then we ran short of oxygen. Now across India we have set up oxygen plants, so that in future if we run short of oxygen, if there is a mutant, then we have adequate oxygen. So the lesson I think really is to strengthen your healthcare system, to have doctors, nurses, healthcare workers who are trained and who are prepared to take on contingency measures. Of course, what India has done is the experience that we had, we imparted it to other countries, developing countries. So we organized a lot of workshops, we sent some of our experts who went to these countries and helped them in best practices to fight the pandemic. So India is really committed to helping the rest of the world. We have an old concept called Vasudev Kutumbakam. This is the Vasudev Kutumbakam.
So what
that means, it's in Sanskrit, but it means that the world is one. The world is one.
Of course, and that's true.
And it's true. And recently at the G20 summit, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that India is prepared to provide 5 billion vaccines to India and the rest of the world next year. That's 5 billion just in 1 year. So we are, it is called the pharmacy of the world, but we are a major developer of health, medicines, pharmaceutical products, and also vaccines.
So not only you have conquered your difficulties, but also you are stretching out hands to help others. But can I ask you, how did that particular experience of the pandemic affected or influenced your foreign policy?
As they say, the pandemic is a once in a century event. But right from the beginning, we were focused on not only helping ourselves, but also helping other countries. I just mentioned that we sent a lot of medicines. At that time, the medicines had not yet been invented, but we sent what was available at that time. Once we started producing the safety kits, the COVID testing kits, the PPEs, these were sent to many developing countries across the world. Now, once the vaccine production has been stepped up, we have also started supplying, and we hope that in the near future, with more vaccines being developed in India, we have 3 or 4 vaccines which are being developed, which are also indigenous. There is the first DNA vaccine which India has developed. A company called Zydus Cadila has developed it, and we will be prepared to provide maximum assistance to the rest of the world.
Amazing. But also again, we would like to know also about how have this very successful experience affected your economy, affected your tourism. affected your businesses and the course of daily life, I mean education and the lives of people, if you could monitor or assess the changes or the benefits from your experience, this 1 billion?
Well, last year when the pandemic broke out, certainly in the first half, there was a contraction of the economy. In the second half, our economy grew as a lot of people had the confidence to go out. A lot of people also developed some kind of immunity. This year we have seen a steady growth from the second quarter, and there is an all-round growth of the economy. We had certain phases last year when the first wave had come down, when Indians started traveling within the country. So there was a lot of travel within the country. Now the government has reduced the restrictions. We have started flights. So I think in the next few weeks we will see a lot of domestic travel. We have also announced that we are opening up to foreign tourism, which certainly had a very major impact, because foreign tourism, quite frankly, stopped all over the world. Foreign tourism last year almost came to nil. But we have announced that from 15th of November, we will allow all vaccinated travelers to come to India on all types of visas. So we hope now that the tourism from abroad will also start.
So what are the main aspects and potential for India-Egypt cooperation in health aid?
Well, we have very good cooperation. In January this year, India had provided 50,000 doses of AstraZeneca to Egypt. When our second wave unfortunately broke out, Egypt was one of the first countries to provide assistance to India. Your President Sisi was kind enough to authorize dispatch of 3 aircrafts with a lot of medical equipment, for which we would like to thank the government and people of Egypt. An Egyptian company, Eva Pharma, also provided remdesivir, because the number of cases in India was so high that we were a little short of remdesivir, and we received 350,000 doses of remdesivir, and they were all supplied on time. So Egypt has been able to save several number of lives in India. Now we have some investments of our pharmaceutical companies in Egypt, but we are also a very big supplier of APIs for your pharmaceutical companies. We are also one of the largest suppliers, probably the largest supplier of vaccines to your company. So the vaccines, MMR, rubella, measles, typhoid, tuberculosis, many of these vaccines are actually coming from India.
Great news, and at this very optimistic note, we're going to be ending it here with you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Ajlt Gupte. You are the Ambassador of India to Egypt. We're very much honored to have you this morning. You have a beautiful day.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me. It's a privilege to be here.
Our real pleasure. And I guess this brings us to the end of this segment for the breakfast show. We're going to be continuing after the short break, so stay with us.